Let me ask, before I open it up to the audience, Dr. Panagariya and to Dr. Lahiri. We've talked about a lot about economic growth, lots of figures. Being a journalist, let me introduce politics into it, right? Because everything is politics, and politics is everything. So we look at India in terms of the growth trajectory, etc. But India is not China. It's so diverse. It's got messy politics. You're seeing it today in the general election, right? It's an epidemic of populism, freebies being given out. Everybody's kind of racing to the bottom. How do you account for that in all your projections? In terms of, and one part is also the cultural part. Sharmaji has gone to Vaishno Devi. Okay, doesn't matter, right? Lack of ambition. So how do you inject that into your projections for India? Is the fact of the politics, also the fact of reform. We talked about reform. Look at the way the farm sector reform got stalled, which I thought the farm laws which were proposed were very good laws, which would, increase scale, increase productivity, give better income to farmers. But they got stalled. Labor market reforms. You've talked about demographics and how India's demographics are great, but that's also a burden, because where are the jobs going to come from to take care of all these young people who are coming out? And the unemployment figures for, from people who are coming in from 18 to 24 is huge in India. It's a time bomb sitting there. So can you address some of these? I've asked quite a few questions within the questions, but you get the general trend.
So, by nature, I'm an optimist. And so I look at the glass, half glass full rather than half glass empty. I used to be pessimistic along the lines that you have just mentioned till the 1980s. My pessimism basically was grounded in the fact that, we got a political class and a bureaucracy especially, which is so entrenched and has such vested interest in the license, permit, Raj, and all the restrictions that we had, that we will never change. Things cannot get better in India. But then 1991 happened. Then one time I remember, after 1991 reforms, on a trip, on a bus from Delhi to Jaipur, because heavy rains had broken all the roads and all, a 4-hour trip became 8-hour trip. I said, all right, reforms we can do, but roads have to be built by the government, and our government is completely incapable. Then came along Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and that, quadrilateral highway. And when I sort of got onto this, going from Jaipur to Bhilwara on the stretch up to Kishangarh, which was 6 lanes, and I got to it and I said, wow, this is America. So things that I did not think would happen did happen in India, and that is what drives my optimism. And a lot of the difficult reforms, I said this, that we can't move at the pace that an authoritarian government can move, but we move. And consensus have been evolved, and so many reforms that looked so difficult actually at one point have happened. Even labor laws have been enacted. In fact, if you look at this, the much of the struggle on reforms has been more at the political level, not so much at the people level. I have seen hardly any pushback, except in the case of the farm laws, which had a very special case. But otherwise, when you say that, there is no consensus on reforms, we used to hear this actually during 10 years of UPA government, but people were never in the way. I think the consensus was lacking within the government, and then you've had the change of the government, and under Modi government, the reforms have come back. So that is my kind of view, and now we have broken the barrier. In a way, now it's not an issue of whether we are going to reform or not. It's just a matter of, when is it going to happen, when you got the right window to do it. So a lot more consensus on reforms. A lot of the things that I didn't think would happen have happened. So I think we'll certainly get there. A couple of things that Amartya said, whatever you do with the size and all, at the end of the day, India's firms are such small firms, farms, schools. you know, when your schools are less than 20 students in the entire school on averaging 11 or 12 students per class, I know that this is suboptimal. This is not, even pedagogically, that class is not going to get anywhere, you know, because per class you got 5 students, 6 students. So that is what we are talking about. On your firm analysis you did, by the way, missing very badly because you are using the ASI data, but you're missing the huge number of millions of firms actually which are not ASI. They're not in the ASI, the really small ones are these what we call the proprietorship and partnership, which appear in the informal survey of the informal sector. I mean, there are none every 5 years or something. So there actually your productivity, I don't know what the relationship will be, but these are all very, very low productivity firms. So if you put those together with yours, you'll see a massive difference between the larger firms and the smaller firms. So I think, no, I'm just saying that then the larger firms will actually give you, by comparison, because the weight of these very low productivity small firms in your sample of small firms would actually rise dramatically once you combine those two. So that is my point. Also, there, by the way, a lot of these firms are probably coming from in these very protectionist sectors. So one has to also separate them by the sector. You know, in an export sector where you are not being protected by the tariffs, you'll probably see a more robust pattern. When you're protected, then efficient and inefficient, they all get into the game. And that's what may be coming in your ASI data, yeah. So
Do you want to comment on it?
I'll just say one thing about, you know, when you look at US states, or you look at Canadian provinces, or you look at Japanese prefectures, what you see is over time, there is this narrowing of gaps between the different provinces, the different states. If you plot Indian states, this is a very tepid. In fact, it was almost like, you know, there was no relationship between growth and initial levels early on. Things have improved a little bit. So why do I bring that up? I think I worry a little bit that we don't take sufficient advantage of our federal structure. That, you know, we have traditionally, I think, ended up relying too much on the center to kind of, you know, do. And now I know you're heading this up, and we have Mr. N.K. Singh here, who's also, you know, presided over this in the past. But there is an issue about encouraging competition across states, and one way to do that is fiscal federalism in a more enhanced way. So I thought it was, you know, this whole thing about has 42% gone too high or not, has to be read also with that kind of context, that are we getting the states to compete with each other in terms of best practices and so on, and that demonstration effect and the fact that you could lose business if you're not. But it's too easy right now to complain that the center is squeezing stuff. And I'm not getting this. So some of it may be valid, some may be completely, you know, just political posturing. But it's important, I think, that you take that option away for, you know, it's too easy a way for misfunctioning state governments to hide behind that the central government kind of, you know, messed us up. And that, I think, a little bit of this fiscal federalism should take that on board about getting states to compete with each other more than they are.